the keys are to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. What an exciting game. The game was kind of up and down, but it was very exciting, and it was fun to watch. And I'm very excited the 49ers are now 2-0. You go on the road for the start of the season, and you want to come away with 2 wins, and they did exactly that. 2 early time slot games, Alex. 2 up, 2 down.
Look, I know it's not pretty. I know it's not what 49ers fans want or hope for, right? You're hoping for shellackings of the Lions. You're hoping for shellackings, right, of the Philadelphia Eagles. But getting the job done is just as important, especially when there's things going on and things happening with your team, fluctuations, injuries, things of that nature, and just a lot of things changing. Man, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button right now. Whoo, man, I am just... It wasn't the way it was. It didn't look like nothing was going in San Francisco's favor in that first half. Really nothing. They had no momentum whatsoever. Yeah. The fact that they finished the first half the way that they finished it, right, and then build on it with that opening drive of the second and that opening stop of the Eagles and just really sticking it to them, just it makes you feel good about where this team is, right, when they get things clicking and when they get things going. They're relying on a lot of young people right now. When those young guys get comfortable playing NFL football day in, day out, that grind, that preparation, once they get that feel for it, this team is going to take off.
Yeah, I think that early on in this game, I think the one thing that was very noticeable is the 49ers game plan on offense as far as running up the middle was not there. Whatever they thought they saw were going to be able to use, it just didn't work out. It was not until later in the first half where they went to the outside sweeps again like they were running against Detroit, where they found some success out on the edge, where Elijah Mitchell was able to kind of navigate his way through and get some tough yardage. Later in the game, it got a lot easier of course, Brandon Graham was out and some other things, but they weren't able to take care of those linebackers early up the middle, which I think that's what they thought they were going to be able to do. And Jimmy was off. I mean, Jimmy was not on target. He missed a wide open Mohamed Sanu. He put it way out in front of him and high. He missed Brandon Aiyuk over the middle where he could have got Brandon Aiyuk on the in cut. That would have been a big play. Where Jimmy there were times where he had clean pockets and made errant throws.
Yeah.
I thought he did settle in. I thought especially after the big goal line stop, it seemed like everyone settled down, and also the crowd got quiet. Yeah. Once the crowd got quiet, you were able to hear Jimmy. They were able to run their offense a little bit better. And I thought from that point on, the offense was way better than it ever was the entire game, because early on the Eagles had their number.
The Eagles cost themselves this football game. They really did. If you take the 3 points down there at the end of the game, at the beginning of the game, if you go down and instead of going for it on fourth goal, if you take the 3, you're looking at a 3-point situation there at the end. They really tried to put the Niners away early, and it cost them. Yeah. Niners defense was prepped. They were ready. That Philly special didn't faze anyone. When the handoff happened, I literally stood up, and Megan was just talking about it in the chat. Alex was screaming within the first 5 minutes. On that handoff, I literally stood up and said, "There's that Philly special. There it is. Here it comes." And it comes through, and K'Wan Williams sits on Jalen Hurts, excuse me. And, just the rest of the defense locked everything down, kept everything in front of him, and said, "Greg Ward, either taking a sack here, or you're throwing this thing out of the back of the end zone. You aren't walking out of here with points. Nice try. Too bad, so sad. This isn't Doug Peterson's Philly special. This isn't Doug Peterson's football team. You guys better figure out a better way to get the ball in the end zone." I was I was jacked, man. I was jacked through the roof early, and it started. Like, the tempo started early in the game. The very first snap, he's offsides. Hargrave is offsides by a mile. It's not even close.
Oh, yeah, I think everyone watching is Herman booning it from Remember the Time. He's offsides. He's lining up offsides. Yeah, we're all doing that.
Oh, I mean, he was 100% offsides. You go from that to the very soft Josh Norman first pass interference call. The second one, a little bit closer. I understand why they threw the flag, because his hands are on him in the end zone, the ball's in the air. Okay, fine. The first one was a terrible, terrible soft call.
Agreed.
A lot of things are really not going San Francisco's way. The chop block flash
garbage
coming back in blindside block by Mohamed Sanu was oh my lord,
garbage. That was like football 101.
It wasn't even a blindside block. He doesn't come back in and smack the guy. He comes in. He literally sets himself in front of the guy so the defender can see him and he can see him. He engages with the hands and the shoulder pads. Doesn't lead with the head in any way, shape, or form. Not at all, anywhere, shape, or form. And honestly, that was one of the calls that got made early where I thought to myself, "Oh my! I mean, you're making things as hard as humanly possible if you're the officiating crew right now for the 49ers to get anything going." Really, really anything going, because we were starting to drive at that point, and that penalty set us back. And I was like, we'll be lucky if we got out of here with any points in the first half. At the rate things are going, we seem to shoot ourselves in the foot. When we do have situations and opportunities, we're not capitalizing. Everything was just not going San Francisco's way. Jimmy overthrew Sanu on that deep out route as well. That would have been a completion for a first down. And I'm just at that point in that first half, I'm sitting there going, man, if we can somehow get into halftime only down 3-0. This is a big fat W for this team. You somehow find a way to get down the field and score. Jawan Jennings is the hero on offense in the first half with the touchdown pass. And then you're able to come out and do what you did in the second half, really establish and control the game the rest of the way through. And then obviously at the end, the big run by Jalen Hurts there in the fourth, right? That sets up the big touchdown run and the very soft again call by the officials on Jimmy Ward with the late hit while Jalen Hurts is hovering above the ground, not out of bounds, hasn't stepped out of bounds yet, and still somehow, after the play, personal foul.
Strangely, in this game, I never felt like off balance. I never felt like we were going to lose. I never had any of those feelings because DeMeco Ryans and the defense had this thing, pretty much in hand. The game plan was very solid. They did a lot to disrupt what Jalen Hurts wanted to do. There were times he evaded and got outside the pocket, which made me nervous. But overall, I thought they did a very good job. Deommodore Lenoir stepped up big time in his second career start. He had the one that looked like he got beat by Jalen Reagor, but he knew the guy was out of bounds. That was big. The second one, he did get beat by Quez Watkins. Watkins got him a little off balance and beat him down the field. And we got to give Jaworski Tart a lot of credit for hustling down the field and catching a very speedy Quez Watkins, because it ultimately ends up being no points for the Eagles. And I love that fourth down stop and that goal line stop actually changed the entire momentum of the football game. And that was just an excellent play by the defense.
It was.
You had Armstead who stayed outside, which we always talk about. Armstead can't keep contained. Armstead kept contained. So we need to give him a lot of credit for that, number one. Number two, when Greg Ward tried to go inside, Fred Warner's waiting for him at the goal line. So he sees inside, I can't run. Fred Warner's there. And then you got K'Wan Williams with a great coverage on Jalen Hurts in the back of the end zone. So to me, they just all played it well. It was perfect execution by this defense. DeMeco Ryans had his guys consistently in the right spots, and it was a bend and don't break. They were going to get yardage at times. They were going to do the things that we thought that they were going to do, but they took away all the tunnel screens. They took away all the screen passes that they wanted to run, and the 49ers just executed on defense. And I thought the defense kept the 49ers in this football game, which a lot of people didn't think could happen, and a lot of that goes to the fact that there was very timely tackling and very good execution from DBs that weren't expected to be big-time players for this team.
Josh
Norman, they didn't even look at him most of the time. They looked at him twice, pretty much. And on those plays, he got the pass interference where he's doing a little bit of hip grabbing or whatever. I'm not too worried about that because one officiating crew is going to call that, and then there's about 10 that won't. But I thought it was a nice, promising sign for the 49ers defense.
I agree with you. Look, I think despite the fact that things didn't go really the way they wanted to, they weren't able to really get momentum and get things going early. And the defense really was on their heels for most of that first half. Norman did an excellent job. Deommodore Lenoir did a pretty good job, other than the couple of the deep shots and deep opportunities. I did like the way he played on the touchdown call that got negated to Reagor. He tried to force him to the sideline. What I would like to see him do, though, is not just accept that, I got this guy out of bounds. I don't have to worry about it. Dude, keep playing. Keep playing, young guy. Don't let someone else make the determination for you, because the referee showed you on that play, they're willing to miss calls if you let them miss calls or give them the opportunity to. Just keep playing through it, keep fighting. That's the one thing you have to do as a rookie. And you know what? He got tested today. He had good moments. He had bad moments. He laid some wood as well, and so took some big shots at some receivers and dealt out some punishment. Fred Warner played very, very well today. There was a couple of times where I wish Fred would have gotten some bigger tackles or bigger stops and brought some guys down immediately. But for the most part, he looked great. Javon Kinlaw looked fantastic. The Eagles didn't really gash us with the interior run. The run game for the Eagles, for the most part, was fairly contained. They had some times where they were able to move the ball, right, and have some effectiveness, but most of their running came with the feet, right? The feet of Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I think he probably was the most successful. Sanders and Gainwell had their moments where they did have nice runs, and they got pretty good holes at times, depending on what the 49ers defense was trying to do. D'Amico Ryans also flipped the script a little bit in the second half, where he started adding a safety over the top to Deommodore Lenoir, where early in the game he didn't do that. And also the blitz came later in the game, kind of what we thought was going to happen. Early on, they tried to use, not use it. And then later on, the safety blitzes and the run stopping and run game came. And then eventually it came in the pass game too. And when they were able to do that, they really did, force Jalen Hurts to struggle in the pocket. I thought overall it was nice. I thought Eric Armstead had an excellent game today.
I thought he played great last week.
Yeah.
I think he did it again. I can't wait to dive into the film a little bit more and really just hone in on Armstead and what he was doing, because it felt like times where they needed big things, right, up the middle, up the gut, keep Hurts in the pocket or make throws difficult, that Armstead was really causing a lot of problems and allowing a lot of the guys to single up in space and get in after the quarterback.
Yeah, I think that was a fair assessment by us, saying that we were worried about the guards of the Philadelphia Eagles, if they could stop this interior 49ers defensive line, and there was a lot of times they couldn't. And once Brooks went out and it was Landon Dickerson, then they even pushed him and drove him back even further. But I think that one sack on Hurts is probably the most prominent one that sticks out in my mind, is where the interior defensive line completely collapsed the offensive line into Hurts, and Dee Ford and Nick Bosa collapsed the outside.
It's true.
It was the prototypical way you design it. That is how you draw it up, and they executed in a high level. When they needed the big stop, they got the big stop. So 49ers got it done today. It was a lot different than the Detroit game. It was a way different feel. And I thought the defense showed up in a better manner today. I thought the offense did what they needed to do to be successful. But early in this game, they didn't hit on the screen passes either. Juice had the drop. Deebo Samuel had drops.
Couple of drops.
Yeah.
One of them, too. You can watch it from one of the angles. If he doesn't drop the football, it's a big play.
Oh, yeah.
It's a huge play.
Well, you knew it had to be a big staple of the offense, because you needed to take pressure off your offensive line with this great defensive line from Philly getting upfield. And you saw it early, the aggressiveness. They could have used it against them, but they weren't able to execute those plays. I didn't think those were on Jimmy. I thought those were on the receivers not making catches. Jimmy had his own mistakes, but later in this game, Jimmy settled in and he played fantastic. He had complete control of the offense. The hasty run where he checks and cans the play and gets him outside on the sweep was fantastic. So it was kind of an up and down game, but I thought at the end of the game, Jimmy played his best.
I agreed. And this is what we said about Jimmy Garoppolo. This is a guy who knows how to operate the offense. This is a guy who's very comfortable operating this offense. This is a guy who you can trust to operate this offense at a high level. Yes, when things aren't in rhythm, Jimmy can struggle at times. But if Jimmy's not making the big mistakes, and this is right now the difference that I'm noticing from 2019 Jimmy to right now, you could bet your sweet behind in 2019 there was going to be one pass a game where you looked at Jimmy Garoppolo and thought, what in the world are you doing? Mm-hmm. What are you seeing? Why are you throwing the ball there? And it almost always ended in a turnover. Almost always. He had at least one of them a game. This year so far, really hasn't been that many of those types of throws.
No,
it really hasn't. He's had it. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. He's had a couple. They haven't resulted in interceptions, and that's because they're not as bad. They're not as bad. Whereas in previous years, it was right into somebody's hand. This year, it's at least right a fightable ball where your receiver can go fight back to it. The one to Debo on the outside is the one I'm thinking of today, where he threw it out in space. The corner was there to make a play, but Debo is also in position to fight and make it really, really hard for it to just be a turnover.
Debo made a great play because Jimmy Garoppolo did not get his hips into it. He did not get his lower half into it, and he let it sail. And he does that sometimes. And then also on the Brandon Aiyuk one, that one should have been intercepted. That was over the top. The defender had it in his hands. That 100% should have been intercepted.
Should have been.
Jimmy was a little off early, but I thought that once he settled in, he was accurate. That ball he threw to Deebo Samuel over the middle between two defenders at the end of the first half, where Deebo got all the way down to the 10-yard line, was the epitome of Jimmy Garoppolo. Over the middle, quick release. I mean, it was fantastic throw. Hitting Deebo in stride so he can continue to run.
Dude, the smallest one. Three guys around him.
It's so nice. Those are the things that make you remember how good Jimmy Garoppolo is at times, and that was fantastic. So yeah, early struggles. Could it be environment? Could it be situation? Yeah. And then after that, he settled in, and he really did play well at the end.
No, he really did.
Yeah.
I really loved what I saw there. Steven had asked a little bit earlier. Stephen Byer asked about Lenoir, how he felt he played overall. He felt he had a solid performance, other than the obvious 90-yard completion there to Quez Watkins. Look, I liked a lot of the things I saw from Deommodore Lenoir. I think at times he did a great job of getting over the top early and running with guys. They did have some help over the top for him because I think the 49ers felt they were going to try and take some shots deep with the speedy guys. So you had Ward there who was in position a lot of the times over the top as well as Tart in certain situations as well. But I think he did admirable. I think he did fine, right? I think he's going to get more and more comfortable with schemes and speed and the speed of the NFL level and, the leverage points, right? How much room do I need to give a guy before I turn and open up if it's a deep guy on a deep route?
Right.
What kind of things can I see? What kind of schemes or formation setups can I be looking for to know when someone is going to try and take a deep shot on me? I think all those things over time will help. But I loved what I saw out of him today. I liked what I saw out of Josh Norman. Some Eagles fans thought Josh Norman was cooked, Ant. He was cooked, and he was going to get exposed. Didn't look too exposed to me today.
No, he definitely didn't. This is what I expected. He fits the system the 49ers run and fits the scheme. So bringing him in, like I told you, I honestly thought from just everything that I've read and everything that I saw that they planned on bringing Norman in no matter what. If Emmanuel Moseley was healthy, if Jason Verrett was healthy, they thought that he could come in and compete with Emmanuel Moseley because you're always trying to upgrade your team. And it looks like that is the case. He was out there. He looked comfortable out there. He looked like he was playing well. After only 2 weeks, with the 49ers, it seemed like he was in firm control, and they didn't really take a lot of shots at him. They took the 2 chances, and both of them were, penalties. But the one thing you'll say is he didn't get beat. Even if he got a penalty, he didn't get beat. He made sure that he was in the proper position, and that's the thing. You have to be in position. You have to be on that guy to get a penalty. Accurate. So at least he's in their hip pocket. He wasn't grabbing. He was just doing a little hip pulls. Those things are kind of normal. Like I said, he'll get away with those sometimes, and sometimes he won't. But I thought that was promising. Now we get more time for Drake Kirkpatrick to be available as well.
Sure.
But we've got to be very excited about a 5th-round pick. Again, Diamador Lenore stepping up. Talanoa Hufanga, 5th-round pick, stepping up in special teams. I thought those were both good. And it was interesting that our boy Cannon got out there.
We talked about this before. Yeah. We talked about it in the preview show a little bit. We talked about it in the next day episode, our daily episode. You had brought it up and mentioned it. There's an opportunity that Ambry Thomas doesn't suit, isn't active, right? Healthy scratch.
Yeah.
And they roll with Trenton Cannon. That was the decision. It ended up being the right decision because we had some running back stuff go down.
Yeah, I mean that he actually got a carry. I so wish Kyle would have gave him a sweep because that's something better that Cannon can do. He tried to run him up the middle, but it was nice to see him out there. I mean, they didn't really give him any opportunities to return except for that last one. He's just trying to get down, protect the ball. I understand what they're doing. And Hightower probably told him to do as such. But it was definitely an interesting thing. Ambry Thomas, I look to be more of a healthy scratch kind of all year now. They got Kirkpatrick and they got Norman healthy. To me, that this guy's going to develop at practice, and then hopefully down the line he can help perform for your team. But they fixed the return problem. It looks like they're going to have this guy, and this guy's one heck of a kickoff guy, one heck of a gunner. We saw him out there, and the cool thing was on special teams. I don't know how many people caught it. Coach Timo probably caught this. Was that the gunners were Cannon and were Sherfield.
Sherfield looked fantastic out there.
They looked great doing it. So your special teams just got a whole lot better. Those are 2 of the better ones in the league.
Absolutely. Yeah. And look, the hasty issue comes off of the fumble. He takes a shot at the end, the unnecessary roughness call at the end. That's probably where that happened, I would imagine.
The ankle
injury. So I think Hasty's probably going to be fine. Kyle was probably just a little frustrated with the fumble because it hits him right in the hands, and there's no reason he should have dropped the ball. And then he tweaks an ankle, and they decide, all right, this is the opportunity now for Sermon. And then first carry, boom, Sermon goes down, which is just unfortunate. Luckily for us, Elijah Mitchell doesn't look like he's going to have any lingering effects from the shoulder stuff. He's probably going to have a light workload this week, I imagine, as they let him rest up as he gets ready to really assert himself now as RB1 in this backfield. Do you think there's any moves coming for the running back room? That's going to be a big question.
It all depends on how long Hasty's going to be out. If Hasty's going to be out any significant time or any time at all, you'll have to make some sort of move. I don't think you're going to roll in there, with Mitchell because, Sermon's going to be in concussion protocol, so you don't know how that's going to play out.
Also true.
So you don't want to roll in with just Mitchell and Cannon, so you're going to have to make some sort of move. That means you got Adrian Peterson, Frank Gore, Todd Gurley. They're winding it up. They're getting ready.
Our 49, there's a good question. Cutback crew. Anyone that was over in Rombo's channel, how many people are calling for Frank Gore to be signed now? I imagine the calls are deafening.
Frank Gore said earlier this week if they call, he'll be ready. And then the next, less than 12 hours later, he said he was going to boxing. So Frank Gore to boxing coming soon, apparently. But I don't know what they're going to do at the running back position. I'm guessing there's still some people out there that they could go target. But that was unfortunate what happened to Trey Sermon because Trey Sermon had one heck of a run on that. He had a nice lane to run. He made a nice move, and he was doing the right thing. And then he just got forearm to the head, followed by helmet to helmet contact, and it's lights out, and he's out of the game. So that was unfortunate because it was nice to see him spin a little bit because I'm pulling for the guy to step up and make plays for this team.
He's going to need to. Brad Jones, I think a trade for Matt Breida is coming. This is something that Ant had
Coach
thrown
Timo
out.
brought up Kerryon Johnson as well.
Oh, that's right.
He's on the practice squad.
So he could be becoming active and being activated and brought up, so that there is also that. Matt Breida trade there from Brad Jones. That is also a possibility. That's something to definitely keep an eye on with what they're doing. And he's not really being utilized there in Buffalo. So there is a chance that Buffalo's willing to part ways and make a move, especially if they feel they can get like some sort of pick swap or an upgrade somewhere.
I definitely wouldn't mind seeing Kerryon Johnson spin either. I actually like the guy as a running back. Different style. He's going to be more of the physical, bruising interior guy. Doesn't really fit what they were going to have to do against Philly, which they had to get on the edge. It seems like right now the 49ers' success in the run game is out on the edge, living off the blocks of Mike McGlinchey and George Kittle and Trent Williams and Kyle Juszczyk and these big wide receivers, that's where they're being the most successful, allowing these running backs to get out there, read the cutback lane, or get to the edge and just take off from there. Those are the things that are being successful for them. We'll see if that continues against Green Bay next week. Because I think that Kyle wanted to really establish a vertical interior run game, and it just wasn't there. No. Some of that has to do with Philly's penetration. They were very good on the defensive line.
Absolutely. They were great on the defensive line today. Tommy, look, he was right about one thing. The Bird's Nest was right about one thing. This was a tale of two halves.
He was right about Landon Dickerson was going to play, too.
He was also right about Landon Dickerson playing. I don't know if he would have predicted it that way. He said he was going to start. But he did say it was going to be a tale of two halves, right? That one half was going to go one way and one half would go the other way. And that's exactly what happened. The Eagles dominated for most all of that first half with the exception of the very end of the second quarter. And the 49ers controlled the entirety of the second half and really, at the end of the game, really just gave the Eagles, that one drive, letting them try and work their way down the field. You don't expect, obviously, Jalen Hurts to scramble for 50 yards and to get a stupid penalty, right, to give them an additional 15 on top of that and put them right in striking distance. But the Niners were willing to just let them there at the end of the game try and work their way down the field. It is what it is. It happens the way it happens. But the 49ers controlled the entirety of that second half on offense and on defense.
I'm not going to lie. The end of the game, defense is frustrating me.
It is.
I thought at Detroit it was mainly because we pulled all the guys out. But once again, you saw it here. It was a complete just prevent. Like, we're pulling everyone out. We're pulling everyone off. Linebackers are playing 8 yards deep. And they were just letting Jalen Hurts be able to get to the outside. If you're going to do that, make him throw the football and at least just stay outside and rush from the outside. I didn't like the way that they did it. I also didn't like the guys they had out there at that time. You might as well have D Ford or Samson Ebukam out there at those times where they can run this guy down, especially Ebukam, where he could at least stay outside and do something. So they got to figure out their late in the game situations. I think they need to run more of their normal defense. Yeah, I know you're trying not to get beat deep. But go ahead and just roll a safety over the top. Protect your guys, if you got to run two deep safeties. But this prevent ain't getting it done. I'm not excited about it. I hope they reevaluate it and look at it because if you get in a situation where Green Bay has an opportunity to come back on you real quick, you have Aaron Rodgers. He can do that real quick. I wouldn't be happy about that. So 2 touchdown lead. No. The way they're running defense right now is not safe.
No, it's not. And they're going to have to make some adjustments quick on that and how you want to attack and how you're going to do it. But here's the good news, right? I know me personally thought coming into this game, we were going to have to rely on the O to really get things going and carry this team through. That ended up not being the case at all. The defense stepped up in a big way. Al-Shaair stepped up in a big way. Kinlaw helped significantly with the run defense and what they were able to do. Bosa looked great again. Ford looked great again. Armstead looks great again. Contavious Street. Can we talk about Contavious Street a little bit too?
He's been playing well.
My goodness gracious almighty. He looked solid in the run too. I expect more success for him in the pass game. But he looked great against the run. They tried to double team him a couple times. He was able to rip through and really blow run plays up and run opportunities up. And linebackers are feeling great. Shaair felt pretty great today. Fred Warner played. I think Fred Warner played even better this week for the most part, start to finish a whole game than he did in week 1.
Well, he had cleaner times.
That's also true.
These defensive linemen were eating up the double teams better. Where Detroit was getting more of a push on our interior defensive line. Some of that could have been Kinlaw. Kinlaw will change the defense that way. But they were giving Givens and those guys the business last week in Detroit. Where this week it seemed, and also Kerr, who was inactive for the game. So those guys were getting the business last week. This defensive line was different this week. They were handling it. Kinlaw's a big reason why. Contavious Street's play was a big reason why. We're getting closer and closer to Maurice Hurst being back too. So overall, it was a good performance by the defense. I thought the offense was sputtered at first and then got it going a little bit. but they definitely had to work for everything. Philly's defense is no joke.
No.
Philly's going to be a team to be reckoned with, especially in the NFC East. I think that they're going to be somebody that, the New York Football Giants are going to have some problems with. The Dallas Cowboys are going to have some problems with. And then it's going to be one heck of a matchup with the football team because both defensive lines are really good.
Yep.
I think the one advantage is I'm taking Hurts over Heineke if we're talking that. So I think the 49ers played two teams that are better than I think originally anticipated.
Yep.
Looking at the schedule, they got through it. That's the most important thing. They won, and now they go back to the drawing board about getting ready for Green Bay and preparing for what Aaron Rodgers and this offense does, and if Aaron is actually mentally there or not. There's a lot of questions about his willingness to want to play football right now.
Yeah, there's gonna be, and we'll see what week 2 turns out like. Brad Jones asks, were you guys surprised it went with Givens over Kerr? I was a little bit, but there were times last week where Kerr got blown up a couple times.
Yeah,
he didn't have the greatest game on film.
The reason it's Givens over Kerr is because Givens is a better pass rusher.
True, and
he's also a guy that's quicker moving from point A to point B. So if they figure the Eagles are going to run outside zone, you're going to want Givens who can scrape and get across offensive lineman's face and get to the right location. So that's why he would make sense over Kerr. If it was a more interior run game, you would want Kerr because he's more of a two-gapper, a guy that can plug the holes. So there's a different style of guy. When I look at Kerr, I see him more as a 0-1 technique guy, and I see Givens as a 3 technique guy.
Oh, my goodness. Jason Hill, Brandon Graham, torn Achilles, done for the year.
Yeah, that is
unfortunate.
A non-contact, him out in space. That is unfortunate. That is too bad. You hate to see it. Another team that just gets marred by injuries.
And apparently the rumor is also Fletcher Cox ACL. If that's true, that is a massive, gigantic blow to this Philadelphia team. I hope that's not the case because that team has a lot of potential.
Oh,
especially if that front four is healthy for them on defense, they could get a lot of damage done. If Fletcher Cox did tear his ACL and is out for the year, and Brandon Graham in the same game, holy cow!
These lower leg injuries, it's so hard right now. It's ridiculous. Man, I don't want these guys to get hurt. I hate to see it. I hate to see players getting hurt. Especially key players to a football team. That's just frustrating. We went through it last year so much, and I really hope it's not for Fletcher Cox. I really hope not, because losing Graham is big enough, but if you lose both of them,
that's rough.
You're in a world of hurt. Unfortunately, that linebacker group, they're going to be in some trouble. They're not going to have any freedom out there. They do have Josh Sweat. They do have a couple guys still, Hargraves, so they have some talent, but man, that really does hurt.
It does. I'm hoping that's not the case. We'll see what happens with Fletcher Cox if that's really the case. If there is an injury, I saw someone talking about it. I saw a report saying they're not sure there was something wrong with his knee, though. Hopefully it's A-okay. I would love it if Fletcher Cox is able to go for them and is not season-ending injury. Man, I'll tell you what though. Got to give props to the 49ers in the way they fight.
Right.
The fact that they don't stop. There was definitely a change in attack plan from Kyle Shanahan. They definitely wanted to establish inside run early. It was funny. They wanted to. We weren't really able to get a lot going offensively up the gut. And you can ask Megan, the second drive of the game, we came out and ran another inside run that got stuffed for -2 yards. And I was just just stop. Kyle, I know, I get it. You want to. It's just not there. Just do something. Try and go anywhere else with the football right now. Anywhere else. And it's funny because the Niners have been so predicated on the outside zone for a long time and sweeps and things of that nature. There haven't really been a lot of outside zone looks for the 49ers this season.
Well, a lot of times, especially when you're going against defenses that have penetration on the front line, the outside zone won't work. They penetrate and get upfield and stop it. So a lot of times you want to get vertical and go right at them and find holes that way. They were trying to pull offensive linemen and set up traps and blocks like that, and it just didn't work out. The game plan was very evident early on is that he wanted to get up the field early with a vertical run game and then hit them with these screen passes to negate the speed rush of the Eagles defense.
Yep.
If he could get them moving laterally, that's what we talked about, them running the horizontal offense, getting the ball back to Debo, being a gadget guy on the outside, because they did have those passes to Debo again that are on the edge where he just gets it and he gets 6 yards and he catches it behind the line of scrimmage. The game plan was set. The game plan was pretty much known. This is what Kyle did last year against them as well. I just think that this year, the run game, they couldn't get it going the way they did against the Eagles last year, so they weren't able to get George Kittle involved as much. But the Eagles also did a very concerted effort to take away George Kittle, which was very clear and evident by what happened in the red zone, where multiple guys go with George Kittle, and Jawan Jennings is standing there like, what? I'm open? Well, what? No one's going to guard me? And I think Jimmy was so shocked he was that wide open that he almost made it, too fine of a throw. But it was a great play, and it just shows the attention George Kittle gets on the offensive end, and that if you're going to pay that much attention to somebody like him, then other players can beat you. That's why we always say you have to worry about Deebo Samuel, you have to worry about Brandon Aiyuk, you have to worry about Trent Sherfield. All of them made plays today. Brandon Ayuk's catch. Phenomenal catch, by the way. A pivotal third down, fantastic.
It was glorious. And some people, I saw some people immediately after the throw, posting on Twitter how that was a terrible throw by Jimmy and just an incredible play by Aiyuk. And it's like, no, it's just a really good throw by. There's the DB is pressing. He's pressing hard. If you throw it into Ayuk's chest or just on his outside shoulder, there's a chance that pass is getting broken up. You're putting the ball away from Aiyuk in space, out in space, so Aiyuk has to go out and get it away from where the DB is attacking, which if you know anything about defense, right, anything about where you attack on a hitch route, any sort of hitch route, DBs are taught to attack that inside shoulder. You want to try to attack that inside shoulder, break up the pass, and if you can't break up the pass, you're at least in a position where you're fighting the guy, pushing him towards the boundary, where you have an extra defender there in the boundary area. So even if he breaks out of the tackle, most likely it's harder for him to turn upfield and get big points and big plays. And as a receiver, you're taught to turn away because the DB is attacking inside. It's the quickest line from you to the football, and it's the quickest way for you to try and blow through a guy through his body, right, in order to break up a pass if possible. Yeah. So all of those things happen. Jimmy puts the ball out and away. Aiyuk does a great job of being an athlete in space, right, extending, full extension, catching the ball at its highest point. I thought it was just great execution by the two of them. Good ball placement by Jimmy. Great catch by Aiyuk. 49ers fans, to each their own. It is what it is, right? Everyone can view it the way they want to do it. But I loved what I saw there. The execution was phenomenal. And, Thanos jokingly tweeted immediately after that, I guess Brandon Ayuk's not in the doghouse.
Yeah. Well, Kyle Shanahan's talking points and coaching points have been for Jimmy Garoppolo to throw the ball high and away. That's what he told him. Throw it, outside and away from the defender. Yes, and he did that all through training camp, and then that's what he did right here. And if Brandon Ayuk's the number one receiver, which a lot of people think he can be the number one receiver, even though Deebo seems like he's letting everyone know, hey man, I'm the guy here.
I'm 1A.
Yeah, but Brandon's got to make those kind of catches, right? I think if Julio makes that catch, if Odell Beckham makes that catch, nobody bats an eye. DK makes that catch. We shouldn't bat an eye when Brandon Aiyuk makes it. He's expected to make those catches. If you're going to be one of those top guys, you got to make it. I mean, is the pass perfect? No, but it's where it's supposed to be, right? High and outside, where no one can get it. If Brandon Aiyuk doesn't catch it, nobody can get it. It's not a turnover. So yeah, I'm definitely not getting on Jimmy for that one. Jimmy had his own mistakes. He had his own problems.
He had some bad throws,
but that's
not one of them.
That's not one of them. And so yeah, that was a nice play, and I thought it was really pivotal because. Me and you were actually talking about Brandon Aiyuk coming in for that play. We saw where he was. We watched him the whole time, and then he made the catch. So that was kind of nice.
It was very nice. You love to see it out of Brandon Aiyuk. And it was funny because he had the issue with Sherfield, right before that, in which Sherfield's getting a little mouthy, right? And it's one of those things where it's like, oh, by the way, Megan, $4.99 super chat there. Go Niners. Thank you. We really appreciate that. And go Niners indeed. But Sherfield's getting a little mouthy. He's getting a little testy. And it's one of those things where the new rule of the NFL, right? You just talk at another player. The officials are going to get a little flag and whistle happy. They will throw those taunting flags real quick. The rest of the Niners come in, pull Sherfield away, and you immediately see Welker literally turns, points at Aiyuk, and Aiyuk runs out there on the field to take that next step and make that big play. They're on third. But it just shows where they're at, right? If they feel someone's not doing something or if someone's head's not in it, they're willing to go back and forth, flip-flop. They definitely trust Brandon Aiyuk. He just hasn't. He's working himself back. He's working himself back into the fold. It looks like.
Yeah, he was chilling on the doghouse for a little bit. Now he's kind of moseying around the yard, But I think that Trent Sherfield also that catch he made on that slant route where he went inside.
That was nice.
And he catches the ball and he gets sandwiched by two defenders and he holds onto the ball. That's big time. I mean that is a big time catch. That is what we needed. When we knew that Bourne was leaving, you wondered who was going to be able to fill that role. And what we didn't know is that we were actually going to get a major upgrade in that role. So I feel confident with the 49ers, top three receivers. And then you have somebody like Jawan Jennings and Mohamed Sanu that are making plays because even though Sanu doesn't have a catch, he has the big pass interference in the end zone where, they get to the 1 yard line when they end up scoring on. So each one of these guys were making plays in this game. All five receivers contributed to the 49ers game plan. And then I thought also that George Kittle did enough where he really accelerated his game was in the blocking like he usually does.
Absolutely.
There wasn't a lot of opportunities for them to catch. I think they were really working on making sure he didn't beat them after last year. But I thought overall it was pretty good from the receiving group. I haven't had any real complaints with the receiving group over the first 2 weeks.
No, there's really not a lot to complain about. They've executed very, very well. They've done the things that they've needed to do. 49ers fans are clamoring for more George Kittle, and I understand completely. But his impact right now has been significant in the running game. Extremely, extremely next level. I thought Lincoln Tomlinson also stepped up today. He had a couple pancake blocks that I liked seeing as well. I think for the most part, just top to bottom, the O-line play right now has been absolutely phenomenal. There have been times where they get beaten pass pros, but it's not like in previous years where you got 2 or 3 guys getting beat and there's pressure up the middle. When someone gets beat on the edge on the outside, there's nothing coming up the middle of that field. Jimmy Garoppolo was able to step up, escape from the pocket, and we've seen a more elusive Jimmy than we've seen in the past. He's healthy. He trusts his body. He's willing to get out of the pocket. He's willing to make throws, and he's willing to put his body on the line to get some extra yards as well.
Yeah, he is. And you know what? Mike McGlinchey got worked by Josh Sweat on that one, and that was because he had to do a kick slide, in the wide set. And we've talked about this before that's not not
a strength,
not a strength of his. And he's another guy that struggles when when the run game's not going good. But once they got out on the edge and really established the run, you've seen them move the pocket a little bit. But I have to give Jimmy Garoppolo credit that this looks a lot more like 2018 Jimmy Garoppolo, 2017 Jimmy Garoppolo moving around the pocket pre-ACL injury, because he was moving around, he was extending plays, and he was getting some yardage on the ground. Not a lot, but you know what? Instead of taking a sack or throwing the ball away, making it go from what would have been 2nd and 10 to even 2nd and 8 is very pivotal for what they needed to do. But Jimmy's navigating the pocket a little bit better, and I thought as he settled in, he even looked cleaner and better. So I'm excited about the things that he's doing in the pocket, but I was a little surprised, too, not to see Trey Lance at all.
I was surprised as well, but, hey, it is what it is. Tommy with a $2 super chat. Giants greater than Cubbies. Niners
over the
greater
Beagles.
Than Beagles. Okay,
Yeah.
I thought I said less than for a second. I was going to be like, wait, Tommy, you did what? Wait, what? Jay in the Bay, what's good? 2-0 feels good, baby. It does. And Jay, 5 big things. A couple of them came true, but the keeping Jimmy clean in the pocket ended up being a big one for the 49ers offense today.
And red zone.
And the red zone,
executing in the red zone. When the 49ers actually got into the red zone, they took care of business, converting touchdowns, and that's what you're trying to do. 2 opportunities, 2 touchdowns. You score touchdowns, you win. The Eagles didn't convert on their opportunities. Blocked field goal. Javon Kinlaw, welcome back.
Hey, I guess he's a bust, and I guess Javon Kinlaw's a bust.
Definitely not on special teams.
Hey, I wonder if Buckner ever did something like that.
Probably. Buckner's that kind of guy. But let's just be honest, Kinlaw and Arden Key together, both of them were up there to block that kick. That was interesting. That was a big pivotal play. So it was the 49ers were executing. I thought special teams actually was maybe the brightest spot on the entire team. I thought they executed at a high level all the way around, which I know was a concern during the preseason. So Richie Hightower worked it out, got it the guys that he needed, and got it done. The 49ers, when they added a 53rd man recently, because of injuries, they added a special teams guy, a guy that can help them in that area of the game.
Yep.
So they're doing a really good job of just making sure they're mixing and matching and getting the right guys. And Josh Norman looks like he's another guy they picked up that's going to be good for us.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, man, I feel really good about this team right now. I feel comfortable with this team right now. I know that things aren't going necessarily the way fans wanted in terms of dominance and asserting ourselves. And, I think while no one wants to say it, right, revenge tour is in everyone's mind. Like revenge tour, going out and just dominating and obliterating everybody is what everyone wants. I know no one's coming out and saying it, but that's what they want. It hasn't really gone that way, but it's gone differently. We're out executing. We're stepping up late. We're establishing ourselves in certain areas of the field early. When I think maybe we wouldn't. Against the Lions, it was the offense establishing early. In this game, I'm thinking the offense is going to have to establish itself early to try and calm the defense, and it's the opposite. Offense can't get going, and the defense steps up early and bends and does not break, and a few times bends and then reasserts and reassembles itself and stiffens up like a brick wall and says, I don't think so. You don't get anything here. After that blocked field goal and the Philly special, I told Megan, we're sitting there on the couch, and I was all, that's gonna cost them the game right there. Those 2 things right there, because you could be sitting at 9-0 right now with full control of this game, and the Niners having absolutely no momentum. You're up 3-0, and if the Niners go down and score before halftime, you're in big trouble. You're drowning, and before, right, you were sitting comfortably in the boat.
Yeah, I thought that was the defense carried the load today.
Oh yeah.
The defense was the one that was getting it done, and that was kind of a topic of conversation. Was did the offense need to carry them because of the secondary issues? Was the offense going to have to score early and often? And you know what? Conventional wisdom was yes, because you have guys that we have questions about on the back end. The one thing that has been nice the whole time is consistency in the second level with Fred Warner, number one. You always got him. He's the captain of the defense. And he was
that's right.
often making checks and putting guys in the right spots, eliminating blitzes or, doing what he needed to do, checking out of defensive coverages. And then you have Jimmy Ward and Jaquiski Tartt, who playing together have stabilized the back end of that defense. They're there to help on the run. They're there to help on the pass. And they had great pass breakups today. I thought both of them looked very good. We are very comfortable with those two guys playing. And then another thing that was interesting was I seen Marcel Harris on the field sometimes, but I did not see a lot of Demetrius Flanagan-Foles.
No.
It looked like they played a lot of nickel and just went with K'Wan Williams out there. And I thought the Eagles did the 49ers a favor by playing a lot of the personnel groupings that, didn't have two tight ends out there. So the 49ers were able to sit in that, and I think that might have been a little strategic error by Sirianni, because if he would have went more two tight end sets and forced the 49ers to put somebody like Flanagan-Foles on, they could have opportunities in the run game, opportunities in the pass game. But they weren't able to take advantage of that. So maybe a little bit of a flaw there that he could have fixed.
And I'll tell you what, the film, going back and watching the film is going to be a lot of fun, getting to see the things that they did, what the Eagles, what the idea was with their attack and what adjustments they tried to make. Because I wasn't looking at a lot of the adjustments they were trying to make. I was more focused on our defense and what adjustments we're making with our personnel, coverages, how we wanted to attack, where we were sending blitzes from. The blitzes got a lot more creative in the second half and where they were sending them from.
Oh, yeah.
I liked watching that. I liked seeing the developments a couple times, literally having Ward deep or Jaquiski Tartt deep back, looked like covering the second half of the field, and then literally running them up on the snap and trying to get in and cause some pressure. K'Wan Williams off of the edge a couple of times as well. So it was nice to see. I liked the way that they brought pressure. I liked the way that they tried to disguise things and make things really difficult for Jalen Hurts. I thought they did a good job of it. Obviously, some issues and some concerns with containing mobile quarterbacks, but that's always been something that we were thinking about. And the 49ers today were willing to live with it and deal with it a little bit, and it paid off.
Yeah, besides the 91-yard throw, it was check down central. It was throw underneath, throw these underneath routes, and then the 49ers just rallied to make tackles. And this is what we talked to, the guys about this week was, are the Eagles going to be able to take advantage of the opportunities down the field? And besides the one, they really didn't. We could point out Rager's one, but he was out of bounds. We could point out other times where they took shots, but they just didn't work out for them. So they weren't able to do that. And the 49ers made sure that they weren't able to do that. In the second half, you're right, bringing the blitzes and bringing the safety off one side from way deep, but then rolling the other safety over the top of Deommodore Lenoir. So Hurts would see the safety coming, and then they just felt comfortable with Josh Norman. Like, hey, Norman's out there on his own. He can do his thing. He can handle business. And I thought Norman also showed his game a little bit on tackling. When there was opportunities to make tackles, especially on the screen passes, he was there. He was getting physical.
He was.
And that is something that I really do like about him. Deommodore Lenoir was getting physical. But that's what Norman and Kirkpatrick are going to add to your football team, is that physicality. So those were good pickups. I think that the 49ers defensive secondary is going to be stabilized over the next few weeks. And I'm excited about what they can do. I'm excited about the potential. And D'Amico Ryans is settling in nice. I thought he had a very poised game, and the second half adjustments were spot on. And that is something you can feel comfortable with. The only thing is, please take care of the fourth quarter. That is annoying me at this point.
End of games is the only real question mark I have right now. And the Cutback crew is talking about how the Vikings are currently torching the Cardinals. They are. Kirk Cousins is rolling early. The Cardinals defense and the secondary, a little suspect. Pass rush is obviously not getting to Kirk Cousins. This is one of the things with the NFC West. Week one is week one, folks. It's really easy to overreact or underreact to week one performances. Week one very rarely gives you an idea of what a team truly is. It shows you either the worst portions of them, right, what their floor is, or their best, what their ceiling potentially is, or what it physically is, or what it could be. But it's not a dictation of what your team is yet. It's week one. You can overperform, you can underperform, you can be who you're going to be the whole season long. Week one is just like that first kind of opening glimpse and that little peek at what a team is. So Cardinals took it to Tennessee. That's great. But that's not going to be the Tennessee team that plays all season long. And that may not be the Cardinals that show up each and every week. You still have a young quarterback. You still have questions with their secondary and with some of their defensive guys. So teams now have some film on opponents and their starters. So people are going to be able to make adjustments. Also, it's still early in that game. It's only second quarter with like 8:26 left. So there's still a lot of time for the Cardinals to climb back in and for Kyler Murray to do stupid, magical running quarterback things.
It's about matchups. I mean, that's the thing. It really is. When you go from game to game, it's how you match up. And if Derrick Henry would have got it going against the Cardinals, they would have had success. Then Chandler Jones wouldn't have been able to get after the quarterback because they wouldn't have been playing from up ahead. And if Tennessee's playing from behind, then they struggle. So these type of things happen. It's all about matchups, and it's about getting through those matchups. And also it's about how these teams are built. The NFC West, all these teams are built a certain way. And one of the things that we're finding out is them playing against the AFC South is not a good matchup for the South because the South is built a different way. All of those teams are built to beat each other. The NFC West is built to beat each other, and they're going to beat up on the NFC South or AFC South. That's just the way it is.
It's true.
So, I mean, it is about matchup. So, but not too much into that. More back to the 49ers.
More back to the 49ers. We can focus on
that.
Yeah,
I'm still very excited about the game and the way it went and the flow of the second half. Yes, the first half was hard to watch, but I thought the second half was very good. And once again, Kyle Shanahan really did get it going in the second half on the run game. Once they found something that worked, they just stuck to it. I mean, they did. It was sweep this way, sweep that way. It was moving guys around with motions and getting good angles for their blocks. And it was Jimmy Garoppolo cannon plays. But once he got to it, he just stuck with it. And so far, Detroit wasn't able to stop it, that good. Philly wasn't able to stop it that good. So you wonder if Green Bay is going to be able to.
Well, especially now, right, with Zadarius Smith out.
He's out, yeah.
And Bakhtiari out for their offense. They got some serious holes. And one of the things we talked about with Tyler Menting the last time he was on, and he's a Green Bay fan with Football Unlocked, we were specifically talking with him about Trey Lance and Trey Sermon in the running back room, but we dove into a little bit about the Packers matchup, and he said, he's fine and comfortable with guys like Zadarius Smith. It's just other guys on that defense he had a lot of questions about. Well, I mean, there are now a bunch of questions. Zadarius Smith isn't even going to be out there. And I'm really excited, actually, to get to that conversation we're going to have this week. Know Your Opponent this Friday is going to be with Tyler Menting of Football Unlocked, a Packers fan who understands not just football very well, but the Niners overall, the scheme, what Kyle Shanahan wants to do. So he's very familiar with San Francisco. That's going to be a very, very fun conversation. He was already not looking forward to it, right? I wonder what he's feeling now heading into this. I think week 2 will give him a better idea of maybe where the Packers are at or what they're trying to do as well.
Yeah, and welcome David Campbell became a Cutback Crew member.
Whoa, I love it.
Thank you, David. We appreciate it. We've appreciated all the support from the beginning. You've been wonderful. So thanks for becoming a member. We do appreciate it. And you're right. Tyler Menting did not want to come on. He was worried about this game overall. This is in the offseason.
Yeah. He
was worried about 49ers versus Packers. Didn't like the matchups as far as the Packers go. Now the Packers are missing Bakhtiari. They're missing Zadarius Smith. They could be in a world of hurt. So let's see what the 49ers matchup is. I want to see what this running back room looks like, getting through all the injuries and all that stuff. But I'm feeling confident about the 49ers on Sunday night. We're going to have the red throwbacks out there. That's going to be lit. It's going to be excited. The faithful are going to be in the stands going crazy. It's going to be a loud environment. It's going to be hard for the Packers to come in there and execute and win. So I'm looking forward to this. And I think the 49ers have a very good opportunity to go 3-0 and be put in a very good situation when they got to play Seattle the next week. So it'll be nice if we're 3-0 going into Seattle or going into the Seattle game. I think that'll be exciting.
I agree with you 100%. And look, someone asked about Miles Sanders. So the rushing stats for the Eagles breaks down as follows. 6 carries for 14 yards for Kenneth Gainwell. Not very good. Miles Sanders, 13 rushing attempts for 55 yards, so 4.2 average. That's not terrible, but wasn't really a lot of opportunities.
You'll live with that, yeah.
Yeah, and then Jalen Hurts, 10 for 82. Most of that comes on the very big run at the end of the game, which helps him out a little bit. 8.2 yards per carry. I mean, that's not great, but he was 12 of 23 for 190 yards. If you take away the 91-yard bomb, he was 11 of 22 for under 100 yards for the game.
Yeah.
It was check down city all day long. Someone had talked about the Madden simulation. The Madden simulation has been fairly accurate, Ant, through 2 games. Granted, there has to be an asterisk. I have had to run the Madden simulation twice in both weeks because it does something weird the first time around. The first game against Detroit, it threw Kyle Juszczyk in at quarterback, and he threw a pick 6 at the end of the game, and the Niners went down with like a minute 10 left. And I was like, well, I have to rerun this because Kyle Juszczyk is not going to play quarterback. What the heck is this about? And then in the second simulation, same thing. On a 4th and short, Mohamed Sanu ended up being glitched in at quarterback for some reason. Threw a wounded duck out of bounds towards the sideline and killed the drive and the momentum in the second quarter. And I was like, okay, well, I need to rerun this because it's not going to happen. But the second simulations in both times that I ran them through, Ant, ended up being fairly accurate representations of what the game ended up being. It had the Niners going up big on Detroit. It didn't predict Detroit, piling and storming their way back in. But up until that point, it was an accurate simulation. And then in this one, it was a very, very, very drawn out game. It only had the Eagles scoring 3. It didn't give them the 11. It only gave them scoring 3, but it was a tighter game. It was actually 17-3 was the Madden prediction, ended up being 17-11. So still pretty accurate, close game.
Yeah, so if DeMeco Ryans would have done what Madden did on defense, the simulation would have been correct. So
accurate.
Thanks a lot, DeMeco Ryans. You failed us.
You
failed this city. But no, yeah, that's pretty close. That is pretty good. The Madden simulations have been on point. I've enjoyed them. They've been pretty fun to watch, so I do like that.
It's true. Jason says week 2 is always the most interesting week to me, all the overhype coming off of week 1. It is an interesting one just because you can see teams that, people start elevating into the stratosphere, coming back down to earth really quickly, and then people having to reevaluate what their team is. But no, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens the rest of the way. There's still a lot of great games coming on today. There's still a lot of NFC West teams that still have to play, so getting a good idea of where the Niners sit and where the rest of the NFC West teams are going to sit as well is good. Look, I'm just excited. I am excited for everything the 49ers did. I'm excited for where this team and the direction this team is headed, what they're doing, what Kyle Shanahan is put together, and how he's executing and adjusting the offense, what DeMeco Ryans is adjusting on the defensive end. And this is a good time to be a 49er fan.
It is, and I don't think we can, let it slip our mind that they just spent time on the East Coast for an entire, week as they were preparing for another game, and they won 2 games at 10 o'clock start time, Pacific time, which is normally a real struggle for West Coast teams. The 49ers are going to be traveling more than any football team this year, and they've already gotten through part of it with 2 victories, and that can't be outweighed. I think that is a big thing for the 49ers and a real encouraging sign. You win the games that you're supposed to win. They're taking care of business right now, and that is what we needed from them. We need them to win football games, and then they got to win division games eventually, but you win the games as they come, and you're going to put yourself in a position to get to the playoffs, and that's ultimately where we want to be, with a position and a chance to win in the playoffs and get to the Super Bowl again. Is there work to do? 100% there's work to do. But the fact is, while they're getting better, while they're growing, they're already winning. They are.
They're already winning. The sky is the limit for this group. The sky is the limit for this offense. Hit that like button right now. Hit that subscribe button if you're new, if you're just joining. Let us know what you thought about the game. What are your reactions? How are you feeling about this team? We want to have these conversations with you. We want to be able to talk more about this with you. We got a wonderful game recap show tomorrow, so this is just a reaction. We're going to go super in-depth tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. You don't want to miss that with the recap show. You don't want to miss tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. face-off with me and Jay Hill down there going at it over this Week 2 game and just some other 49ers news. What is there to overreact about? What bold takes will I have? What bold takes will Jason has? And will he throw any Eric Armstead slander out into the ether? I hope not after this Week 2 performance from Armstead.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know what Jay Hill's going to think. I don't know what his opinions are of this game. I'm actually very excited to hear it. I'm excited to see what he thinks, because it is a little bit contradictory, to what we do and what we think. And I have to put my referee hat on and stay right down the middle.
You better.
It's hard. It really is. I mean, lately I've been feeling the gravity of being drawn to Jason Hill's opinions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just wrong.
He's been doing a very good job recently of evening the argument, so it's been exciting. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of cool conversations that are going to happen this week. And like I said, early part of the week for the channel, it's going to be all about breaking down this game versus the Eagles. We're really going to get into it. It's going to be exciting. And then as we get towards the end of the week, we turn our attention to Green Bay.
It's true.
And that's when we get to talk to Tyler Menting and know your opponent. We get to do a lot of the fun stuff with the simulation and all that. So early in the week, it's about the Eagles, and then after that, it's getting to Green Bay, which is exciting. So a fun week of 49ers football talk. I'm ready for all of it. I was excited. Another win, another 2-0 start for the 49ers. So it's looking like a promising season, Alex. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but it's feeling good.
Feeling good. Like I should. I'm not going to sing. We'll go anymore singing.
Oh, boy.
Fudge Head will get upset. Look, this is going to be an exciting week. There's a lot of fun stuff right down the middle. We got also tomorrow, big yikes on Patreon.
Oh, yeah.
What really, really, really bad takes are being thrown out there on Twitter, what things were being said, what overreactions from the first half got thrown out there, bad reactions from the game. A lot of fun stuff to talk about with big yikes. So hop on over to Patreon as well. $7 a month, and you get additional shows like Cutback in Time, Big Yikes, all 22 film breakdowns, which are hopefully coming soon, as long as NFL Game Pass doesn't screw the pooch. So far, screwing the pooch. Hopefully, less of that going forward. They said week 1 it would be back. Then they said halfway through next week it would be. And now they're saying halfway through week 2 it should be back. And now I'm seeing reports that they're not 100% sure when it's going to be back. So we have to get super creative and just start doing some film breakdowns regardless and putting them up on Patreon sooner rather than later.
We're going to just start having to do it off the broadcast ones. Unfortunately, I'd really like to have the all-22 film. NFL is failing, and I'm wondering, why did I buy NFL Game Pass if you're not going to do the one thing that I wanted? I just don't understand it. NFL needs to step up their game so we can get the all-22 game film, because I don't want to have to pay for the international version. Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Caleb's already posting the horrible takes over in the Discord. So I like it. Hop on over to Discord as well. Link to that is popping up right now. If you find bad takes, you want to throw them in the hashtag TCC bad take section, you can. If you want to hop on Discord and game chat with me and Ant and the Cutback crew live during games, we have threads while the games are live, so you can talk in the Discord as well. Hang out with the Cutback crew, hang out with us, talk with us as well. Lots of ways for you to engage, lots of ways for you to interact on the channel, so make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit that notification bell as well. Tomorrow, going to be a lot of fun. We'll see you at 9 a.m. for Face Off, 11 a.m. for the Daily. And if you're over on Patreon, at 2 o'clock for Big Yikes. But until next time, 49ers fans, the faithful, the Cutback crew, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way. And go Niners. 2-0, baby. 2-0, baby.